I grew up in Sisterhood. Some of you already know this, that my mother was a past president of our congregation in Orange County, but she was also a Sisterhood president for several terms. And each week, Shabbat morning, we would put out the kiddush, grape juice or Manischewitz wine, challah, cookies, and often we would go into the kitchen and make lunch for the entire congregation. Now keep in mind, that was usually 50 people, maybe 150 for a bar bat mitzvah. But in my memories of what stands out was the blending of generations. Girls ages 9 and 10 hanging out with teenage young women ages 13 through 16, and all of us helping the moms and the grandmothers, the women in their 30s through 80s. Now again, we were a very small group, but there was this organic space each week for women to chat, to tell jokes, to find sweet comfort and safety, not just within the women of our own households, but within the women of the shul. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't as if we were all best friends. But I do think it was a magical experience for children and teenagers to see other women besides their parents or aunts or even grandmothers as potential role models and confidants. Because I think role models look very different today. It's hard. It's hard to compete with YouTube and Snapchat, TikTok, and Instagram. Now, I don't believe that every reel or YouTube video is negative or detrimental. I have to say, some of them can be very sweet or instructive. But I'm still skeptical how many online influencers positively serve as true mentors. How many online figures or celebrities tell women of this generation, "You are beautiful inside and out"? How many social media outlets provide one-on-one mentorship, one-on-one healthy, safe conversations, reminding our girls it doesn't matter what that scale says. It doesn't matter what kinds of brands we have in our closet. How many internet sites remind young adult women that they need to speak up, that they need to apply for those scholarships, that they should be going out for the job interviews, that they should challenge the teacher, write the article, that they need to have their voice heard? Now, there may be some TED Talks about young women and confidence, but I venture to argue that nothing takes the place of one woman holding space for another. And recent research proves me right. The acronym ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. It's the rubric used to understand what might lead to poor mental health. ACEs might include abuse, neglect, household dysfunction, bullying, cyberbullying, and much more. But PCE, positive childhood experiences, these can help mitigate the often detrimental exposures. Positive childhood experiences. Those include a stable home, growing and socializing in safe environments. And this is what I'm hoping that we take home today: strong mentorship with adults, positive relationships between teenage women and adult women that helps young women see themselves through the eyes of those they trust. Again, and unfortunately, I wish it was different, but it can't only be mentorship from our mothers. Because believe it or not, daughters don't always believe what their mothers have to say. Even when their mothers tell them every day, "You look so beautiful," what do they say? "You're my mom, you have to say that." And so what our daughters need to hear most is that mentorship can also exist outside of the family. I hope you're hearing what I'm saying, because really what I'm asking for, and what I have the pleasure and blessing of seeing every single day, is that true mentorship exists within Sisterhood. Yes. I love our sisterhood. A community in which we see each other's daughters and sons, for that matter, as our very own, knowing that we look at each other's children and grandchildren and we provide listening ears and open hearts to someone of the next generation, because I hope we know we are potentially changing someone's life, perhaps in the immediate and certainly in the future. Sisterhood is not just providing socialization for each other, which is crucial for us to have, but sisterhood also provides mentorship for young women that live in a world in which doubt, low self-esteem, and anxiety reign supreme. But we hold the antidote right here. Sisterhood is the remedy. Taking time each week, this is what I'm asking, with permission, taking time each week to reach out to a close friend's child or grandchild to let them know they have another person they can count on, to speak with, to ask advice about a profession, a passion, a hobby. Now, this might be a 16-year-old, it might be a 25-year-old, again, with permission, because it's very tricky. How do we find avenues to be supportive without being intrusive? It's not easy in a world in which we have retreated behind screens and tablets, but I think it's mostly letting our youngest potential sisterhood members know, when you need us, we're here. For many years, my mother would put a Miriam's cup on our Seder table. Anyone else do that? A few? Ooh, look at this. We've continued the custom. But in the grand scheme of Passover traditions, the Miriam's cup is a fairly new tradition. Now listen where it originated. I bet Edie knows. It originated in a sukkah. A sukkah. A sukkah in 1978 in which the sukkah host invited those mystical ushpizin. Those mystical guests were supposed to include each night of Sukkot, and one night the host said, I am going to include Miriam. And in doing so, each person drank from a cup of water to symbolize the well of water that would accompany Miriam throughout the desert, water that would physically and spiritually sustain each life. But that Sukkot ritual transcended the holidays, and in 1989, it made its way to a Rosh Chodesh group, then a Shabbat dinner table, and finally to where it's most commonly used today on our Passover Seder. Now, some people put Miriam's cup right in the middle of the table and leave it there for other people to ask questions. Others choose to fill the cup from their own water glasses to symbolize the collective strengthening of the Jewish people. Now, the Siftei Hachamim, a primarily 17th century commentator on Rashi's commentary, asks, why Miriam? Why was Miriam merited the reward of having a well accompany her throughout the wilderness? What did she do to merit such an honor? And the answer given is quite beautiful. It's because she waited. She waited by Moses' side when he was placed in the teva and the ark in the water, when he was a young infant. When he was seemingly all alone in the world, Miriam didn't leave. She waited right by the side, watching and showing up as an unobtrusive presence to ensure his stability and to cast her role as one of the many women that would help him grow up. It's the magic of Miriam's well. A well, if you will, that did not lead the people, but rather a well that walked with them. And I think that's the magic of sisterhood. Sisterhood women who are mostly unrelated to each other, that choose each other as newfound family, walking with each other through our sorrows and through our joys. And my request this morning is to look out within our congregation and beyond and wonder to ourselves, which young women need a sisterhood? And we should take on the task this morning to let that person know, to let that young adult know, yes, you are worthy, You are deserving, you have a place in this world, and you are not alone. The Talmud reminds us, in the merit of the righteous women of our ancestors, they were redeemed from Egypt. It was because of the righteous women, because of our ancestors. I hope you're hearing this piece, that the rabbi said it's because of the women we were redeemed. And perhaps it's because of the righteous women of this generation, because of our sisterhood, that the young women of the next generation will say, you all chose to walk with me. And because of that, I am here. Because of all of you, I stand tall and I stand proud. It's because of sisterhood. Shabbat Shalom.